As North Korea steps up its aggressive rhetoric towards South Korea and the US, new footage has emerged of soldiers training military dogs and conducting firing drills. Sending clear signals to their neighbouring enemies, the footage shows dogs mauling effigies of South Korean Defence Minister Kim Kwon-jin, who the North have described as its enemy number one. And as well as dogs, soldiers can also be seen firing at targets with pictures of Kwon-jin and a soldier in a US military uniform.
This is like being on the eve of a big explosion. Every minute, every second counts. We are ready to march once the order is given.
Despite this deliberate provocation from Pyongyang, the US has postponed a long-scheduled missile test in California in a bid to avoid any action that could further provoke the North.
Well, for years, Lee Chun-hee has been the face and the voice of the DPRK's state media. One of the most recognizable people from the DPRK, aside from government officials, Lee Chun-hee says she is calling it quits, ending her career as a newsreader at Korean Central Television. In this exclusive interview with CCTV, Lee talks about her time at KCT and what it takes to be an anchor in the DPRK. James Kim has these details.
Audiences worldwide have come to know the DPRK's television newsreader Lee Chun-hee as an anchor with an attitude. Her trademark passionate and forceful broadcasts for Korean Central Television have made her into an international celebrity. Lee says she believes every anchor should have their own style to impress viewers and adopt different ways to broadcast based on the news content.
For example, when we read the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, we shouldn't sound as if we were shouting, but speak gently to viewers.
For certain news stories, Lee said a tone of conviction is necessary, while for others it's not. To demonstrate, Lee extended her best wishes to the Chinese people as they celebrated the Lunar New Year in an impromptu broadcast using a mild tone.
Today is the traditional festival of both the DPRK and Chinese people, the Spring Festival. And following are the programs for today provided by the Korean Central Television.
Over the past few years, Lee has shifted her focus from broadcasting to working behind the scenes, training a new generation of young anchors in the DPRK.
Many anchor women now are very young and beautiful, and are more suitable to appear before the viewers.
Now in her 70s, she says more fresh and young faces will appear on KCT broadcasts in the future.
We begin with some major news out of North Korea. Pyongyang's second most powerful man, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un's own uncle, has apparently been forced to step down.
The fall of Chang Song-taek and the reported execution of two of his close aides may reflect a major shift in the reclusive state's power structure. Han Da-eun has our top story.
To the surprise of many, Chang Song-taek, who has been regarded as the second most influential man in North Korea since state leader Kim Jong Un took power, has reportedly been knocked out of multiple high-ranking positions. Seoul's National Intelligence Service made an emergency report to the National Assembly Tuesday afternoon, saying that Chang had been overthrown and two of his close confidants executed.
Chang Song-taek's two aides, Lee Yong-ha and Chung Soo-gil, were executed publicly in late November.
The two are said to have been executed on charges of plotting anti-Communist Party schemes against the Kim Jong-un regime. Chang Song-taek is not only Kim Jong-un's uncle, he has also been the strongest supporter of the North Korean leader and oversaw the entire power succession process. Also, as a vice chairman, Chang had full control over the National Defense Commission, the state's most powerful party. So why the sudden falling out? Although there are no clear answers, the general consensus among political analysts is that he was the loser in a power struggle with Vice Marshal Choi Ryong-hae, foretelling a major shift in North Korea's power structure. Choi is currently one of the 4 members of the decision-making presidium of the Central Committee Workers' Party and vice chairman of the party's Central Military Commission. South Korean officials presume, given the gravity of the matter, that Kim Jong Un is behind all this. According to Seoul's National Intelligence Service, Kim is spreading the word of the executions and feverishly conducting so-called ideology education that calls for blind loyalty to his regime. Amid the sudden change in Pyongyang's political landscape, the South Korean government is now keeping a keen eye on North Korea's internal political activities. 한다은 아리랑 뉴스.
A report on the enlarged meeting of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea was issued on December the 8th, Juche 102 or 2013. The report said, an enlarged meeting of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea was held in Pyongyang, the capital of revolution, on December the 8th, and respected Kim Jong Un, first Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, guided enlarged meeting. Present there were members and alternate members of the Political Bureau of the Party Central Committee, and participating in it as observers were senior officials concerned of the Party Central Committee, provincial party committees, and armed forces institutions. Today, after the nation's greatest mourning, the party members, service personnel of the People's Army, and the entire people entrust their destiny entirely to respected Kim Jong Un and are waging a vigorous struggle to implement the instructions of the great Kim Jong-il in firm unity around the party center. But the dangerous anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalist incident recently took place that those chance elements and heterogeneous elements entrenched within the party in an attempt to emasculate the monolithic leadership of the party expanded their force with factionalist moves and dared to challenge the party. Concerning it, the Political Bureau of the Party Central Committee convened the enlarged meeting and discussed the issue about the anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalist acts of Jang Song-taek. At the meeting, his anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalist acts and their harmfulness and reactionary nature were fully exposed. Jang Song-taek and his faction committed anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalist acts of gnawing at the unity and cohesion of the party and hindering the establishment of the party's monolithic system of leadership, and such anti-state, anti-popular crimes of doing tremendous harm to the struggle for the building of a prosperous nation and the improvement of the people's living. Jang Song-taek pretended to support the party and the leader in front, but in the back was engaged in factionalist acts of dreaming different dreams in the same bed and engaging in double dealing. He did a treacherous act of ignoring and hindering in every way the work to hold the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il in high esteem forever. Jang Song-taek made vicious efforts to form a faction within the party, creating illusion about himself, and drawing those with ambiguous faith and flatterers. Jang Song-taek and his followers intentionally laid down on and distorted implementation of the party's line and policy, an organized will of the party, and openly reversed the policy of the party, and furthermore did not hesitate to do the counter-revolutionary act of disobeying the order of the Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army. Jang Song-taek and his faction weakened the party's leadership over the judicial, prosecution, and people's security organs, and thus did tremendous harm to the defense of the system, defense of the policy, and defense of the people. Jang Song-taek, violating the principle of the cabinet-centered system, the cabinet-responsible system put forward by the party, did tremendous harm to the economic work of the country and the improvement of the people's living, and steeped in capitalist way of life, perpetrated irregularities and corruption, and led a dissipated and degenerative life. The ungrateful criminal acts committed by Jang Song-taek and his faction fewer than 3 years after the demise of the great leader Kim Jong-il, eternal general secretary of the party, trigger off a burning indignation of the party members, service personnel of the People's Army, and people. Speeches were made at the enlarged meeting of the Political Bureau. The speakers unanimously and strongly criticized the anti-party counter-revolutionary factionalist acts of Jang Song-taek and his faction and voiced their firm resolve to remain true to the idea and leadership of respected Kim Jong Un, and resolutely defend the party Central Committee politically and ideologically and at the risk of their lives. The meeting adopted a decision of the Political Bureau of the Party Central Committee on releasing Chang Sung-taek from all duties, depriving him of all titles, and expelling him from the party. With the detection and expulsion of Chang Sung-taek and his faction, our party and revolutionary ranks have become purer, our single-minded unity 100-fold firmer, and the revolutionary cause of Juche can advance with greater vigor along the road of victory. Nobody on earth can stand in the way of our party, army and people powerfully advancing towards the final victory in single-minded unity around respected Kim Jong Un under the great banner of Kim Il-sungism, Kim Jong-ilism, the report said.
North Koreans are outraged at the behavior of leader Kim Jong Un's uncle and advisor Jang Song-taek, who's been executed. Jang had been considered the second most powerful man in the north. State media said he was immediately executed after being found guilty of treason for attempting to overthrow the state. In Pyongyang, locals said he deserved to be executed for challenging the country's leadership. He's like an enemy who dares to be crazy enough to take over power from our party and our leader. And look how much harm he did to the people's lives. He got what he deserved. For this group of traitors who are going to destroy our single-hearted unity, execution is too lenient. They should be torn up and thrown in the rubbish bin of history. South Korea has held a ministerial meeting to review developments with its northern neighbour. The United States said it was consulting with allies in the region, and Japan said the move could herald a period of radical upheaval.
He held very senior positions, both military positions and party positions. He was the guy who was given the responsibility of overseeing the transition to power from the father to the son. So really a very key role at the heart of North Korean politics, which makes what has happened the last few days so striking. Those pictures you might have seen on our coverage of him being hauled from a party meeting by armed guards, literally holding him up under his arms and dragging him out. It's the kind of thing that you just don't see in North Korea. And the fact that the country is publicizing his fall from grace like this is really very striking. Here again, we're learning about the military tribunal that took place on Thursday, December the 12th, that his crimes were again listed, again in a bit more detail. We're being told that he was appointed to responsible posts, but abused that responsibility, formed a faction, attempted to overthrow the state, and was guilty of having political ambitions of his own. And then we're told he was executed straight after that tribunal, during which he admitted to those crimes.
Now, a close aide of North Korea's #2 National Defense Commission Vice Chairman Chang Sung-taek has reportedly fled to China and is asking for asylum in South Korea. Media outlets reported Friday, citing a well-informed source, that the man escaped to China 2 months ago and is currently living under the protection of the Chinese government. The reports follow the National Intelligence Agency's revelation on Tuesday that it believed Chang had been removed from power. The reports say that the North Korean's entry to Seoul will likely be difficult, as the Chinese government is not allowing him to leave that country. Seoul's Unification Ministry spokesman Kim Ui-do said the government has yet to confirm those reports.
Start with the major change in North Korea's leadership as experts continue to digest the news that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's uncle, Jang Song-taek, a key figure in North Korea, has been purged. Attention is shifting to what happens next.
Experts say Chang's removal, if confirmed, will have a huge impact on North Korea's policy goals as well as inter-Korean relations. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
If reports of Chang Song-taek's ousting are confirmed, experts say the removal implies a major shift in the North Korean leadership. On Tuesday, Seoul's National Intelligence Service said Chang had been purged and 2 of his close confidants executed. As Kim's uncle, Chang practically served as the guardian of the young and inexperienced dictator and was known as the power behind the throne. Also, as a vice chairman, Chang had full control over the National Defense Commission, the state's most powerful organization. Experts see Chang's dismissal as the last part of the young leader's power consolidation phase, saying that Kim has removed all of the old guard close to his father and is now finalizing the members of his own inner group. They say a complete removal of Chang and his aides may carry North Korea further away from a successful economic reform, one of Kim's key policy goals, since Chang is more aware of market forces than his nephew. The latest ousting may also lead to an escalation of tensions on the Korean peninsula, as the regime may launch provocations as a means of maintaining internal unity. That means a fourth nuclear test or missile launch could be on the cards. Such outlook has been echoed by government officials in Seoul. An official at the Unification Ministry said that if Chang's removal was due to an internal power struggle, it's bound to have an impact on inter-Korean relations. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Well, the first thing that the execution of Uncle Jang tells us about life in North Korea is that nobody is too important not to get into trouble there. This guy was really as high up the tree as it comes, really. He started out as a humble party worker, moved his way up the ranks, also married into party royalty. His wife was Kim Jong Un's aunt. Then he has this fall from grace in the most spectacular fashion possible. First, his picture is airbrushed from official photographs. Then he's denounced as traitorous scum in public. And then he's actually executed. What's more, the regime actually says they've executed him. Normally, they just disappear people and nothing more is said. Now, the second thing that we learn is that it doesn't matter how boring party conferences are in North Korea, you must look excited and you must clap enthusiastically like that. One of the things that we've learned that Uncle Jang apparently did wrong was to look bored in the party conference. He would stand to his feet half-heartedly and then clap slowly like that. There's only one person in North Korea who's allowed to do that, and that's the leader himself. Now, the third thing to say is never believe anything you read in the North Korean state media, and take anything that people like me tell you about it with a large pinch of salt, because the fact is that North Korea is one of the most secretive regimes in the world. It makes the Kremlin look like a model of open government. Nobody in the outside world really knows what's going on or why, and anybody who tells you that they do, you should probably treat with a large degree of suspicion.
Hello. In the biggest shake-up since North Korea's change of leadership 2 years ago, the once hugely powerful uncle of Kim Jong Un has been executed, according to the state news agency. Jang Sung-taek was removed from a Communist Party session this week by armed guards and accused of corruption and trying to overthrow the state. South Korean security ministers are meeting and warning the already volatile relationship between the two neighbours is now likely to become even more unstable. Lucy Williamson reports from Seoul.
This was once North Korea's second most powerful man, uncle and mentor to the country's leader, reinvented as a criminal in handcuffs, facing a military court and then execution. Jang Sung-taek's crimes of disloyalty and insurrection, the most serious North Korea can muster. The state news agency described him as worse than a dog and a traitor to the nation for all ages, with a dirty political ambition. His proximity to power and his positions of responsibility had, state media said, led him to see himself as equal to the country's young leader and seek to topple him. These pictures of his fall from grace designed to hammer the message home that no one, not family members, not North Korea's most senior figures, are beyond retribution. Jang Sung-taek has already been edited out of official documentaries, his story rewritten by the country's powerful propaganda machine. But the worry remains. How much does this story reveal about instability at the heart of the North Korean regime? Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Seoul.
Oh, just a short while ago, Lucy gave me the latest developments.
Various opinions being thrown about here in the South Korean capital, and lots of nervousness too, because one of the main things that people are speculating about is that this very dramatic, very public fall from grace could signal real instability at the heart of the North Korean regime, some kind of upheaval which led to the downfall of Jang Sung-taek and the need to crush him publicly in this way. It may also be that the new young leader is keen to is keen to show that to flex his authority and to really show that he has control of the levers of power.
What seems to be surprising many people is not just the fact that it happened, Lucy, but it's been so publicly announced in the media.
Very publicly announced, and so much detail as well. We had a whole list of Jang Song-tek's crimes when he was first arrested earlier this week, and now again that we've learned he's been executed, that he's faced a military tribunal, we again have a long list of his alleged crimes. A bit more detail actually on his sort of central challenge to the leadership. They're saying that he had long-term dirty political ambition, that he harboured this willingness to challenge the leadership and to try and topple the leadership. So it does seem, at least in terms of perception in Pyongyang, that there was a very serious threat to the regime there.
Lucy, just briefly, he had been purged before, of course, but there's no coming back from this one. It's going to be a warning to other people in the regime who might be seen as a threat to the leader, presumably.
That's right. That's why this was so startling. Jang Song-tek was seen as the second most powerful man in North Korea. We often saw him on North Korean television standing next to Kim Jong Un, mentoring him and advising him. Now the pictures we're getting are of him in handcuffs facing a tribunal, or of him being hauled out of a party meeting. The message does seem to be from the young leader, who, let's remember, is only about 30 years old, or maybe even less. If I can purge him, I can purge anybody.
Lucy Williamson there. Let's get more on that top story now. We can speak to Professor Chong Hoon Lee in Seoul. He's Professor of International Relations at Yonsei University. Professor, thank you very much for your time. What do you make of what seems to have happened? Do you believe it? And what are the fact that it's been so publicly put in the media? That's very unusual, isn't it?
Well, I mean, of course I believe it. I mean, it's a very official statement that's coming out of North Korea. They've gone really they made some extraordinary efforts to make this very public. They're making, as you pointed out, villain out of Jang Song-tek, who is not only the designated #2 guy, next only to Kim Jong Un, the son and heir to Kim Jong-il, but he's the uncle of Kim Jong Un, and very, very powerful and influential, as well as being a mentor to Kim Jong Un, who is very young. And therefore, it comes as a, quite frankly, as a shock to those of us here in South Korea and to the world that he will be so swiftly executed.
What does it tell you about the situation in the country, and what do you think are the likely consequences?
It tells me that North Korea is very unstable. I mean, if everything was going so smoothly and hunky-dory, why would Kim Jong-un bother to, go through this extent to eliminate one of the most, in Jang Song-tek, he's one of the boys. I mean, he's one of the Kim dynasty. He may not be, his last name is not Kim, but he's been part of the family for such a long time. So to go to the extent to actually purge him and to execute him says a lot about the state of things in that country, and I'm afraid that things are very unstable. I think there's a necessity for Kim Jong Un to make this kind of drastic statement to the public to bring about some kind of stability for the regime, which in itself speaks for the fact that it's unstable.
There are reports, you will know best on this, of a couple of people already under Chinese protection. Do you expect more defectors as a result?
Absolutely. I mean, if you've had anything to do with Jang Song-tek, I mean, certainly family members, and if you've had anything to do with your, promotion that Jang Song-tek may have been involved in, whether you're in the party, whether you're in the government, whether you're in the military, you have to feel very fearful at this juncture. So if you're already out of the government, out of North Korea, that is as a diplomat or otherwise, then chances are that you'll be looking for opportunities to claim refugee status. You don't want to go back to North Korea. And those who are in North Korea, they'll be looking for every opportunity to defect if they can help it. But I don't think that'll be easy at all.
Very interesting, Professor. Thank you so much.
Agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire and the city of Keene.
Agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire and the city of Keene. So help me God.